Hi everyone, I'm Jane, and today we're going to paint this cute minimalist cactus. Now I want you to pick colors for this painting that create a feeling that you're going for, whether that's a calming piece that you're looking for, an exciting piece, kind of like what I've done, or maybe even a somber feeling. I want you to choose colors that you feel like bring that sense to you. So if you don't have the exact colors that I've used in this painting, please don't worry about that. Use what you have and use what you like. That said, all of the materials that I've used in today's painting are listed in the video description below. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can paint with me every week. Now let's get started. All right, today I am using a different type of canvas than normal. Now you can absolutely use a regular canvas board, paper, whatever you prefer. But what I'm going to show you today is a canvas pad. So my awesome sponsor Frederick sent me this canvas pad. I've had a lot of questions about the difference between canvas paper and canvas pads and canvas, so I thought we'd go over that. So canvas paper is an artist grade paper that has a texture of canvas on the front. So this is actually a sheet of canvas, just like you'd have on a stretched canvas. It's just in a pad of paper. So if I flip it up here, you can see across the back the texture of the fabric. So this is not paper, it is canvas. I have it sitting on my easel here because it's got just this thick, heavy cardboard in the back. So it's very rigid and it's perfect for standing up in my easel, or if you prefer to paint flat, this is a good option. And these canvas pads come in lots and lots of different sizes. There's an affiliate link in the video description below to where you can find this size, and from there you can link off and find other sizes of these canvas pads. So we're going to start out by painting the background with a very pale pink color. And to do so, I've got just a little bit of quinacridone and some white. I'm going to use my 1-inch flat brush, and I'm going to wet it in my jar and wipe it on the edge. I'm going to start by loading up with white. So remember, we kind of pull some out and squish the brush in it, and that kind of squishes the paint into the bristles rather than just sitting on the outside. And that's how we're going to cover this nice and quick. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of quinacridone. I want a very pale color, but you can go as intense with it as you like. So one of the benefits of working with the canvas pad as opposed to canvas paper is the absorption. It's not as absorbent as canvas paper, where canvas paper, you have to use a lot more water or a lot more paint. This is really just like painting on a regular sheet of canvas or a regular stretched canvas. Sometimes the color I pick up is going to be a little bit brighter, a little bit more pink, sometimes a little less pink. Can you tell the color there? It's not very pink. Maybe as I move down toward the bottom, I'll pick up just a little bit more pink. I want a very subtle color. I want the little pot that our plant is sitting in to be the focal point, not the bright pink background. And that is a little bit brighter than I wanted. So another thing about painting on a canvas sheet like this rather than on canvas paper is the canvas paper, it kind of buckles as it gets wet because it's paper, where this is just a sheet of canvas and I haven't experienced any buckling. It's just free on here. You can certainly take it and tape it down to a board if you're concerned about that, but I haven't had any issues with the canvas buckling or rolling or anything. Last little bit at the bottom here. So I know I pushed you guys pretty hard last week with the Buddha painting, so this one is going to be much simpler. But we're still going to focus on, kind of being present and, aware of every single brush stroke and, being patient with ourselves and being willing to layer things if we need to, you know, not being afraid of getting everything perfect the first time around. All the way down in there. Actually, I thought that that was going to be too bright for me right there, but I don't think it is. I think it's fine. All right, next I'm going to sketch on the cactus and the little pot. So I want to make sure that this is completely dry. So I'm going to give it about 15-20 minutes. Okay, so to start drawing our little pot and cactus, I'm going to use a chalk pencil. And the first thing we want to do is decide where on the canvas we want it. Now I'm going to put my cactus and everything right here on this 1/3 line because that's where I feel like it's the most interesting. Now before you start drawing, decide how tall you want the whole element. You know, if you start drawing your pot and your pot ends up only coming up to here, then you know, your cactus, you might feel like you have to make it super tall. So just decide how tall you want everything before you start. And I think I want everything to kind of stop right about there. That's where I'm going to have the top of my cactus. That's about on this 1/3 quadrant. And the pot, I want just maybe about 1 inch above the bottom of the canvas. And hopefully you can see those marks okay. I think I want the pot to be a little bit bigger than the cactus. Maybe we'll have the pot maybe right about here. Okay, so now we can start drawing everything in. So for the pot, I'm just going to draw a line across, just a straight line. I'm not going to worry about the curve of the pot just yet. Keep it about 1 inch from the edge of the canvas. And then I'm going to bring this down at a little bit of an angle. Make this pot whatever shape you like. If you want it to be rounded or you know, fancier. I just wanted like a really simple, almost like a terracotta pot. And the bottom of the pot, we want it to be a little bit rounded, but not, you know, don't do like a big U like that, just a slight round. So if it helps, make the flat line first. So there's the bottom of the pot, but we want it curved. So just curve it slightly from that line. Don't forget to round off these corners because you don't want these hard angles right there. Just a slight curve there. And there's the bottom of the pot. Now up at the top, we want to curve this also, and no more or less than this bottom line. So we want it to curve about the same as that. And same at the top. Don't forget this part. It's just a very slight curve off of that center line. And just like on the bottom, at the edges here, we don't have a hard point. It's a curved shape. It's rounded there where the back and the front meet. And that might be a little wonky. I might have to make some adjustments, but we'll start there. Let's pull that out and down a little. Just straight down for the lip, and then we'll make another line. It's going to follow this line. And there's the little pot for our cactus. Our cactus is going to be a very simple shape. I said I wanted him right about there for the height, and I'm just going to loosely bring this down. I may end up changing the shape of the cactus as we go. Whoa, my paint must not have been completely dry right there. That's okay. Let's pull that wider at the bottom here. I'm not worried about any of these chalk lines. It will all either wipe off at the end or I can paint over all of it. I think that's good for our little cactus shape. All right, now we have everything drawn on. Let's go ahead and start painting it in. I'm going to start with the pot. To fill in the pot, I'm going to use my 1/2 inch angle, and I'm going to wet it in my jar and wipe it on the edge. And the colors I'm going to use for my pot are cadmium red light, which is actually very, very orange, cadmium yellow light, and quinacridone magenta. Now, I know the cadmium red light and the cadmium yellow light aren't colors that we use a lot. So if you don't have them, please don't stress about that. Use colors that you like. Use colors that move you, that kind of give you the feeling that you want. There are no right and wrong colors here. Once we start doing our blending, I am probably going to use a little bit of matte medium. Again, it's just a choice. I like to blend with matte medium. You don't have to if you don't have it or if you don't want to use it. All right, so I'm going to load up with some of my cadmium red light. A good amount. And starting right here just below the lip of the canvas, I'm going to make a line. Now I'm probably going to lose that line, but I want to at least start it there. I'm just working in the middle. Don't take this color all the way to either edge. Small brush strokes. Just focus on getting that canvas covered and, you know, enjoy this part. Don't rush. Come up onto the tip of the brush and just lightly kind of scumble back and forth to get a nice soft line so that when we go to blend in the next color, we don't have a hard line there that we have to contend with, okay? So just a nice soft line at the edges. A little more paint whenever you need it. I'm not picking up any extra water just because I don't feel like I need it. But if you need some more, then go for it. See how I'm just taking this orange really just about in the center. Now I'm going to define the bottom edge of the pot just in the middle, just like I did up at the top. If you have to make adjustments, if the pot isn't shaped properly, please don't feel like you can't do that because we already painted the background. You can easily come back with this color later and make adjustments, so don't worry about that. You don't have to get the shape of the pot right the first time, I promise. All right. All those little spots are filled. Now I have a little bit of matte medium on my plate. I'm going to load up with a bit more orange. Not a ton, just get some more on there. And I'm going to mix it with my yellow. Get a nice bright orange color. See how I mix it right up against there so I can test it and see what that color is like. I definitely want a color that's more yellow. A little point of matte medium. And let's define this edge. So I'm using the chisel edge of my angle brush to get a nice crisp line there. Again, don't worry if you get outside your line or if you make it crooked, because we can fix that later. Define this edge under the lip of the pot. And make sure to keep this corner. Let's see, I'm going to get a little matte medium because my paint is kind of drying out. Keep that a little bit rounded right here. All right, let's fill this in. Now the thing with our highlight is it doesn't occupy just, 1 inch down the side. It comes in farther at the top. See that? I'm going to take it right over top of that orange. Almost to the middle, about to the middle of my shape. Super light pressure. See that just dusting? To pull those colors together. Now down here at the bottom, it doesn't occupy that much of the shape. So I'm just going to blend it in right there. It doesn't matter how much. All that matters is your highlight needs to be wider at the top than it is at the bottom. And I feel like I still need to pull that in just a little bit more right up here at the top. So a little more of that light color. See that? Just past the middle, super light pressure to blend it. If your orange is already dry, which mine isn't, but if yours is, just get a tiny point of matte medium, about like that, and then go over it, and that will help you blend it. Let's go a little bit lighter. I'm just gonna mix some more yellow into my brush there. And I'm gonna keep this bright color right here. Notice I'm not going all the way to the edge. I'm just gonna pull it down right about there. And very light pressure, just dust it. So I just have just a hint of a lighter color there. I like seeing the little brush strokes, you know, the little kind of hash marks. So it's not, you know, perfectly blended, smooth. I like the little bit of texture. Okay, I washed off my brush. I'm gonna get some more of my orange. And I'm gonna mix it with quinacridone, heavy on the quinacridone to get a nice darker color. See that? It's just a much darker version of that orange. And again, I'm gonna do this crisp edge down the side here first. I think that line actually got away from me a little bit. That's okay. Make sure the bottom is defined and that little corner is rounded off a bit. And define this line here. Now, the thing with the quinacridone orange, the shadow side, is it's going to be opposite the highlight side. So what I mean is where the highlight comes in quite far at the top, the shadow side is going to be more narrow. I'm just trying to get that blended with that little dashing motion with the tip of the brush. Instead, it's going to be wider at the bottom, just a little bit. So let's fill in all of that first. A little bit of matte medium because my orange is starting to dry. And start dashing that in very lightly. Heavy pressure to lay paint down, tip of the brush, just to kind of sketch them together. See how I'm pulling that quinacridone mixture about to the center. That just really helps to say that this is a rounded object. I think a little bit more down here. A little point of matte medium. If you take either of your colors too far in, or there's just something you don't like, don't worry about it, because you can just take the orange and dash right back over it. In fact, see, I've got a bit of a line there in my quinacridone mixture, so I cleaned off my brush. I just picked up a little bit of orange, a little point of matte medium, and I'm just gonna dash right over it. See these short, really soft pressure. Don't use big blobs of paint. Don't put a lot of pressure. See how that just kind of softens everything together. I'm going to take that shadow color most of the way across here. Even into where the yellow is just a little bit. See, that's just a hint of that shadow right there. Let's do the lip. I still have some of that quinacridone mixture on here, but I'm just going to pick up orange, a little bit of matte medium. And let's start filling in this shape. So this is where you can really start refining the shape if it was strange. I'm just filling this whole shape in really with the orange. And like I said, there's a hint of that quinacridone in there. Take your time. Don't feel like you have to, you know, rush this out. If you need to get a smaller brush because that's what you're comfortable with, please do so. And I think the shape of I think that shape is a little strange, but that's okay. I'm going to load up with more of the quinacridone on here. Get that nice dark color again. And I'm going to fill in the interior. I'm not paying attention to where my cactus is going to go. Just get a dark, kind of a shadowy color in here. By not paying attention where my cactus is going to go, that leaves me open to, you know, make changes to the cactus. I'm not confining myself to the exact shape that I drew. A little bit of matte medium in that darker color again. And let's add a bit of the shadow color here. Just kind of dashing it down. And it's kind of fading out over there, and that's perfect. Because as we move forward, our color is going to get lighter. Cleaned off my brush, a little of my orange and yellow. Let's get that highlight color. Trying not to stick my hand in wet paint, but trying to rest my hand on my canvas so I can get a little bit of control. And just these short upward brush strokes lighten my pressure as I get to the center. And that highlight color kind of disappears. If you feel like there's too much difference between the highlight and the shadow color, just grab a little bit more of your orange by itself, and you can dash over that. I'm going to keep that highlight color on here. And we're going to give the top edge of the pot some depth. So I'm taking this color right across the top edge here. See that? And now the pot has some thickness to it. All the way around. A little bit more orange, less of the yellow color here for this side. You can use the corner, the point of your angle brush to make sure that that little round spot stays there, or you can get a different brush if you like. And right along there. I'm going to take my finger and just smooth that right there. I don't want a real hard line between the highlight and the shadow. Oh, I don't want that much of the yellow in that part. Just the orange. Because it's darker over on this side. Just get the corner of my angle brush and kind of mush it in there a little. We'll fix that up. I know it looks kind of weird right now, but that's a good start. I'm going to go to my number 3 round brush, and let's get our shadow underneath the lip. So I'm going to get just a little bit of my orange because it's opaque and the quinacridone is quite transparent. And I'm going to pick up quite a bit of the quinacridone. The reason the quinacridone works well as a shadow color is because it's very blue toned. So the orange and the yellow, very, very warm, very red, brings it closer to you. The blue in the quinacridone helps push it into the shadows. So I'm going to take this and run it right under the edge there. Just kind of tap and break up that line. You can smear it with your finger or a little matte medium. Whatever you need to do. I picked up a little matte medium there. Right under here, past the center, and smear it in lightly. Kind of scribble a little with the tip of my brush. Now I'm just going to pick up orange. Oops. I didn't clean off my brush, so the quinacridone's still on there, but I just picked up the orange and a little matte medium. And we'll take that color over here into the yellow. Down this edge just a hint, get rid of that hard line. I'm just kind of tapping it because all of my paint is still wet and I don't want to pull it off, but if you need to just let it dry before you do this part, that's fine. I am going to add just a hint of this quinacridone color under here. There we go. A little matte medium to blend. And if it still looks weird, we'll just put that highlight color back over it in a little bit. In fact, I think I'm going to let it sit for a bit. Let's work on this top edge. Cleaned off my number 3. Let's get that highlight color, that yellow orange. In fact, I'm going to lean it a little closer to the yellow. Nice bright color there. Whoops, sorry guys. And let's dash a bit of that on this top edge, at least in the front. And a bit down here. Just kind of scumble it on. I'm not looking for a real smooth blend. Again, I'm okay with a little bit of texture in there. Let's actually take just a little point of white. See that? Just a little pinpoint. And I'm going to mix it in with that color that I just picked up. It's just ever so slightly lighter. See that? Just very lightly dashing it in there. Maybe we'll take a hint of this yellowy color toward the back. Not a lot. There we go. All right, I like that. Let's fill in our little moss on the inside because a lot of times there's moss in here. And to do the moss, I have some phthalo blue. We're going to move on to phthalo blue here in a minute anyway. So I'm going to come into my orange and grab a little scoop, set it down next to my phthalo blue, and I'm just going to mix them until I get a dark color. They kind of make a brownish green color, which is nice, but it's a very dark color. A little matte medium to thin that down a bit. And right here, starting at the the top lip. Just kind of go in there and dash it in. Nothing real specific or particular. Just little dashes of this color. Same thing over here. So there, while you were doing the top lip, if it got away from you, you just cover it up with this moss. See right there. Just cover it up, doesn't even matter. There we go. We're gonna let the pot dry for a little bit, and we're gonna move on and fill in the cactus. So to fill in the cactus, I'm gonna use my 1/2" filbert. I wet it in my jar, and I've got some cadmium yellow light with my phthalo blue, and I'm gonna mix them until I get a very dark green. So just a little bit of yellow mixed in there enough to take that blue into the green. Using the tip of my brush, I'm really just going to kind of suggest a cactus edge. So, you know, these cactuses, they kind of have bumpy edges. I'm not doing anything real specific. I'm certainly not, you know, creating a shape that looks like that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's going to look really forced and kind of stiff. Just a little bit of a bump. Right down into the pot and stop it in the moss somewhere. Let's do the same thing on the other side. You can kind of give it just a loose shape on the top. If you feel like there's a little bit too much of a pattern going into your cactus, then just break it up. I got a little bit of a flat spot there, add a little bump. And then I'm going to fill it all in with this color. In no particular way, just filled in. All those little specks covered. My color's a little different, and that's okay. The only thing I'm really concerned about while I'm filling this in is to try and make sure that, you know, A, I'm covering all of the spots, but B, I don't have any real thin areas that are gonna look drastically different from everything else. Take it all the way down to that front edge of your pot where, again, you can kind of clean it up if it, you know, if the shape got away from you. And we want to let that dry before we come back and start highlighting the cactus. All right, while our cactus dries, I'm going to go ahead and fix this part up because it's dry now. I'm actually going to move to my 1/4" angle. I feel like it'll be easier for me to get in there and do this the way that I want it done. So let's get some of the orange, some of the quin. Nice dark color, a little bit of matte medium, and we're going to do this part kind of quickly because I feel like it's about there, it just needs a little bit of help. Just get my dark color right there under the edge. I'm going to take that all the way across, actually. A little bit of matte medium and use that to just soften that edge a bit. Use the tip of my brush to kind of scumble it out a little if I need to. Oh, matte medium whenever I need it. Just matte medium. Okay, it's looking much better. I'm just going to pick up quinacridone this time. I want to make sure that right here it's nice and dark. Matte medium just to smooth it out. Okay, I'm just gonna brighten my highlight on this side a little bit, and then we're gonna call the pot done. So I cleaned off my 1/4 inch, more orange, more yellow, nice bright color. See how much yellow is in there? Quite a bit. And a little bit of white, nice bright color. All right, and right about here, just start kind of scumbling that on a little. I'm just using the tip of my brush. And very lightly overlap that where the shadow is. Take it down the edge, just like with the other colors, it's a little bit more narrow. So see, I don't have very much of it down here. Just wipe that off, grab some more orange, little matte medium, and we'll just scumble out that line. Just like with everything we do, you can do this in as many layers as you need. You know, if you feel like after the very first layer that it's exactly what you were going for, that's awesome. Good job. But if after 5 or 6 layers you still feel like it's just not quite there, let it dry and do it again. You can do that as many times as you like. Just picked up a hint more of that light color just for right there, and then feel like we are done here. We're ready to move on to the cactus. Except now I feel like I need some of that color right here. Just very loosely scumbling it on there. Just picked up a little hint of orange. That's it. All right, so our cactus is dry, and I am gonna move on to my number 8 filbert. This is not my old cruddy filbert. See, it's got a pretty clean point to it. And I'm gonna get some of my green. I don't care if it leans more blue or more green, it doesn't matter. And I'm gonna get a tiny point of white and mix it in there. That's quite blue. There we go. So this color is really not much lighter than what we already have on there, but a little bit of matte medium. And I'm gonna come in here and start defining where the edges are. And from the edge, see, I'm kind of going along the edge, I'm pulling it in about 1 inch, and then just with that light pressure, see, it's just the tip of my brush, just dashing it so I don't have a hard line. So a good amount of pressure there to lay down that color. And as I come back, I lighten the pressure and just dash. And don't worry about this color being real even. This is a plant, you know, and it might change color. Some areas of it might be greener or bluer. All the way down to the bottom there. And actually, speaking of greener or bluer, I think I'm gonna pull a little more yellow into that mixture. So see, it's the same mixture, I just added a bit more yellow to it. And I'm actually gonna redo this top part. I think I want it a little bit greener up at the top, just because that's what I've decided. Pull that down the edge and dash it very lightly back, about 1 inch, 1.5 inches back. Get some more of that color with the blue, matte medium, tiny point of white. And let's do that over here. If you want to make it look like there's a piece of one of the edges that's kind of turned away from you a little bit, which I think I want to do, I'm going to start covering the edge, but then see there how I didn't take it to the edge? Can you tell? You can probably just barely tell now. That's going to help it seem like this darker bit back there is another one of these ridges. And that's what we're defining here, the little ridges where the thorns are coming off of. And I'm still dashing that back about an inch from where I started making the little ridge. Pulled a little more yellow into there again, and I'm just gonna touch up that ridge again. So pretty much that dark edge behind it, I'm really just gonna leave that. I don't know, maybe in a little bit I might hit it with just a small amount of highlight, but probably not. All right, got a little green, got a little blue, and let's create one kind of facing us. So we're just gonna kind of dash down the middle. So this edge here is gonna be the part that's kind of pointing at us. And see, I'm not worried about making a perfectly straight shape. It's kind of wobbly. This is the side that's taking the light. Let's kind of dash that back a little. Maybe I'll throw just a little more blue into there, so it's a little bit cooler, a little bit darker. And along the other side of this ridge, I'm going to dash this back a little, because that part's not taking any highlight, no direct light. Let's get our extra yellow in there, a little white. And we'll put our little green highlight along that edge. There we go, there's the beginning of our cactus. Let's keep going and get some highlights going. I'm gonna stick with this green color. I'm gonna throw a little extra yellow into it too. And let's start really building some texture and highlight in there. See how I'm using these short little, very light pressure. See that? Right along the edge. Dash it back. Not quite as far. We want to make sure there's still kind of a dark recessed area between the little pointy outy bits of the cactus. Everything that I put that green on, let's go ahead and put this on. Really light pressure there. Good amount of pressure to get that color down. Light pressure to dash it back. Let's throw a little more blue into that mixture, a little more white. We're gonna get a little bit lighter here. Same thing. Dash it into that green. Don't worry if you go outside of your shape. Okay, I kind of did there. Either you can cover it up on the, with the background color again, or when you do your needles, you might not even see it. Maybe I'll put just a hint of this highlight color down this side. See, just barely any. Make these decisions as you go. And you don't even have to do this cactus in green. Sometimes you see these cactuses and they've got reds and even purples sometimes. Yellows. Just use whatever colors make you happy. I know, you're watching a tutorial and a lot of times you want your painting to come out looking exactly the same, or you're not confident in your ability to choose colors. But really, you guys, if I'm ever using colors that you don't have, then just sit down with the colors that you do have, pick through them, and decide what colors would you like to see. And then before you sit down and start committing to that painting, make a color chart and see, you know, which colors work together, which colors don't. Let's throw more yellow into that, nice and bright, and a good amount of white. Nice and pale green. One more time. Very light pressure here. Especially because I have a lot of paint on my brush. See how gunked up my brush is? So if I put too much pressure, I'm really going to deposit a ton of that, and I don't want to do that. Smear it with your finger. Just enjoy watching the cactus kind of come to life. But I know that when you get to this point, it's going to be tempting to look at it and think, oh, this looks like a pickle. It does not look like a cactus. But I just picked up a little matte medium. Cactuses are really kind of identifiable by their little stickers, right? Their little sticky bits. So wait to decide if it looks like a cactus or not once we get those on there. And I actually do think I'm going to add just a hint of blue into this. A little matte medium, nice dark kind of transparent color. I am going to hit this edge back here with just a suggestion of this color. Just because I felt like nothing else on the cactus is that dark. That was a little dark, and it was kind of drawing too much attention, I felt, because it was too dark. So I'm just barely scratching a tiny amount of that color in there, just to kind of pull it into the cactus a little bit. Okay, before we continue with our final highlight color, I want to just make sure that these areas in here are nice and dark in places. So I'm going to get a little bit of my quinacridone. I'm going to mix it with my phthalo blue. These are both quite transparent colors. Get a little bit of a dark violet color. And I'm going to come over and mix my matte medium right into it because I want to make sure this paint is very thin, very transparent. And where I want to make sure it's nice and dark, very light pressure. Very, very light pressure. And just kind of sketch that in there, especially right here at the bottom. Just kind of using the edge of my brush, see that it's sideways, kind of scrubbing just a little bit. If you feel like yours was already dark enough in there and you don't need to do that, that's fine. Very good. I know it seems kind of strange to put purple in there right now, but it will work, I promise. Nice and dark right here at the bottom. Just a little pointed clean matte medium. I just want to make sure I don't get any hard lines in there. All right, our lightest color, I'm going to pull some extra yellow into it. Some matte medium, a little bit of white. Actually, let's go with more white. I want a very pale color. Very, very pale. There we go. And I'm going to be pretty selective about where I put it. Now, I changed the angle there for you so you can see exactly how I'm using my brush. You see that? It's not bending at all. I have a good amount of paint loaded on here. So just the tip of my brush, see that? I can see the paint moving. I cannot feel or see the brush touching the canvas. That's what we're going for here. If you put too much pressure, you're just gonna paint over everything. But look at, I get a little bit of texture doing that. So that is what we're gonna do. All the way down here in this bright green area, little dashes of this color. And less right there because that's where we're gonna move into the blue. Over on this side, same thing. Barely touching the canvas. If I have a spot that is quite large that I really want to fill in, like that edge there, then I can put a little bit more pressure, get a little bit more of a blob of paint there, and then kind of pull that out. And same thing here. I kind of made a little bit of a hard line right there to say that it's overlapping that one next to it. But you don't have to do that if you don't want. That's still pretty wet. It's kind of blending more than I wanted it to. I might have to let that dry and come back to it. All right, let's pull a little more blue into there. More white, nice pale color. See that? Substantially lighter. Little matte medium. Same exact thing. Barely touching. Barely touching. Don't be afraid to overlap that greener area. And I love that little bit of texture that I get from, you know, some parts of my brush have heavier paint, so it's thicker. Some parts it's thinner. I get the canvas texture, all of that. And I think I'm going to stop this brighter color right about there. I'm not going to take it all the way down to the pot. Just a little more right there. I think cactuses are so cool. You know, they're, in a lot of ways, they're a lot like mandalas. You know, they're very symmetrical and they have repeating patterns, and they're really cool. I wish that I could keep cactuses, but I kill all plants. So I don't even have to try. It's just like a natural talent that I have. I actually have one little cactus succulent type thing over here that I've had for about a year now. And I'm actually pretty impressed with myself that I've had it that long. That's kind of a record for me. So I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how much longer that lasts. You can even come back, just grab little points of white, kind of slide your brush through it, and just lightly dash a few little bits in there so that we've got some areas that are quite a bit more highlighted. And don't be afraid to experiment with that. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? If you don't like it, cover it back up. There's nothing wrong with experimenting here. I'm even going to do the same thing up here. I just got my yellow color back, my yellow green, little tiny points of white. I like that a lot. Whoop, that was a bit aggressive. We are almost done. No more of this bright color. I'm going to put my highlight right there so that you can tell it's a piece that kind of overlaps this piece. All right, now before we finish up, just kind of take stock and see if there's any edges around any of your elements that you might want to paint over. And we are going to add one more thing to the background before we add our little stickers. And that is a little bit of a shadow here under the pot. And to do that, I'm going to use my 1/2 inch flat brush. All right, so I'm going to grab a little bit of quinacridone, a little bit of white. See, it's a bit darker than the color I used before. Now I can actually clean up the edge of my pop down here that got away from me and start pulling the shadow color out. I'm not going to take my shadow up any higher than that, and just kind of start scribbling it out a little here. My brush was a little bit wet there. I don't actually want my brush that wet. A little bit under the pot, cleaning up the shape while also adding our shadow. If you're not adding a shadow, if you don't want to add a darker color right here, then just use whatever color it is that you do want to use to clean up those shapes. I dried off my brush a little bit, much better. All right. I know that is not what we want our shadow to look like. So I'm going to grab some white, just white, and some matte medium. And now that matte medium is going to be super helpful here because it's going to help you be able to, you know, quote, blend into the paint in the background that's already dry. I just picked up some white because I have pink on my brush and there's still some pink there that I don't want that intensely. Clean up that line a little bit more. If you wanted to wait until you were completely done with your cactus and pot before you even paint in the background, you know me, I'm all for painting the background last. More white. Just blending that down there. See, it's a very loose blend. I'm not trying to get real smooth shapes. I like a little scribble. And I did not like the shape there. That's a little bit better. A little more white. Clean up this side. And notice I have that shadow color going all the way under the pot, all the way from the front. That really helps it seem like it's sitting on the table. My little 1/4 inch angle, nice dark color, just a hint of white in there, mostly quinacridone. And just kind of like we did under the lip on the pop, I'm going to add this dark color right here. If it's too light right under the pot, it's not really going to seem like it's sitting on the table. Just softening that line a little. And just a hint back here, and then I feel like we're done with the table and the shadow. If there's anything on your cactus that needs to be cleaned up like I did on the pot, you can go ahead and do that here too. I think I'm pretty happy with the way mine looks, so I'm gonna go ahead and start adding the thorns. Back to my number 3 round. I am gonna make just a really gross color here. If you wanted to make it easy on yourself and just grab a brown or whatever, that's fine too. So I picked up some phthalo blue. I'm gonna mix it with my orange and get a nice greeny brown color. The opposite of green is red, so we'll throw a little bit of quinacridone in there. And let's get some white. I'm looking for a very pale color. It's a little on the purple side, so I'll pull a bit of yellow in there. There we go. That's just about what I'm looking for. See, it's just kind of a neutrally brownish color. I'm going to make a little spot where the thorns are coming from. It doesn't matter where you put them. The thing to remember is that each one of these little ridges, the thorns are going to be roughly in the same spot. So it doesn't matter if you put them 1 inch apart or 1/4 inch apart or, you know, whatever. The only thing that really matters is that now I look over here and I say, let's see, we'll put one up here. And then, you know, that it kind of follows a little bit. It doesn't have to be like mathematically perfect, but I mean, we want it to be close. And over here, maybe we've got one up here that you can't see on the other beds. So this is where it's really going to start looking like a cactus and not a strange blue pickle. Onto my long liner, little extra water in there, mix that in. We want a nice thin fluid paint. If you're not comfortable making short, straight lines with the long liner, use whatever you are comfortable with. I'm just going to come from one of these little spots and start kind of flicking out. Do as many or as few as you want and get more water whenever you feel like you're just not getting the crisp line that you need. See, I'm just going to kind of flick some. These ones right here, they're mostly pointing outward. So that's why I'm taking them out like that. This can be either a tedious, repetitive part, or it can be a really interesting, kind of meditative part, you know? Sometimes when we do the same thing over and over, it gets repetitive and we don't enjoy it, so we start rushing through it. Or we can choose to just really enjoy every brush stroke and notice how with each bit, it starts to look more and more like a cactus. I didn't add any to that back ridge that's there. We can go ahead and do that. Just, we're probably not seeing where the little bits come off of. So I'm just going to add a few coming off of that back area. This one here is facing us. So these ones are probably, you know, a little bit more fanned out. They're covering up part of the cactus. Try not to make like little even starbursts. Make them really random. You can even vary up your color. Make some of them a little lighter, some of them darker, whatever you like. And I like to make some of them crazy long, some of them quite short. And on this side again, they're kind of pointing outward. You might have the occasional one that kind of overlaps in. There's not a right or wrong color for these either. When I was looking up images of cactuses, I saw ones that had black spikes and some had red. Some had short silvery ones. They're all a little different. Whoop. I'm even going to add just another little poke of white in there. Let's get some really light ones, just a few. And you could even come back and add some little darker ones. So I'm really just going to add a few little highlighted bits. Over here you can't see it a whole lot, so it's really just a suggestion. Once I get into the interior, where it's darker, you'll be able to see it better, so I'll probably add some more. Just suggesting them out here. There. Overall, I'm pretty happy with our little minimalist cactus painting, so I'm going to sign it. And there's your cute little minimalist cactus. I hope that you had fun with this one. I know that I really enjoyed it. I don't typically go for a lot of bright, bold colors, but I felt like these colors really made me happy in the moment, and so that's what I went with. I would love to see how you interpreted this painting, so make sure that you find me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram here. Make sure to tag me so that I get a notification and I can come see your painting. And another huge thank you to my sponsor, Fredericks, for providing the awesome canvas pad that I used in today's painting. I love painting on these canvas pads, and you can be sure that you'll see them again very soon. If you'd like to pick up a canvas pad of your own, there is an affiliate link in the video description below that will take you right to the exact one that I've used today. Thank you as always for painting with me, everyone. I'll see you next time.